My name is Leo. I come from the kind of village that doesn't show up on maps. Too small, too poor, too forgotten. The kind where people greet each other by name, but behind closed doors, barely survive. I was 22. Every morning, before the sun even stretched its fingers across the sky, I was already knee-deep in soil. My boots were cracked. My hands, rough from labor. But I kept going. Not because I loved the work, God knows I didn't, but because my father was too sick to move, and my mother too tired from years of being strong for all of us. There was no one else. Only me. I sold vegetables at the Sunday market, crooked carrots, tired tomatoes, whatever the land could give. People smiled politely, but they didn't really see me. To them, I was just another poor boy trying not to drown in the life he was born into. But then came her. Maya! The girl from the White House with the stone pillars and the garden that never had weeds. She had everything, at least on the surface. Golden hair like it caught the morning light and held on to it, and those piercing blue eyes that didn't seem to belong to someone from here. She was 20. Beautiful. Untouchable. A Carter. Her family owned nearly every acre around here, including the one I worked on. But that Sunday, she walked up to my stall. No arrogance, no smug smile. Just curiosity. Hi, she said softly, brushing a curl from her face. Are these apples sweet? I blinked. Yeah, I stammered. Just picked this morning. She smiled. I'll take 4. It should have ended there. A polite exchange, money for fruit. But she came back. Not just the next week. Every single market day. At first, I thought maybe it was coincidence. Then I noticed, she never bought much. A single peach, a cucumber, a handful of strawberries. Just enough to start a conversation. And those conversations, they became the only part of my week I looked forward to. We sat by the corner of my stall, talking about anything but money. She told me she hated being called princess. I told her I once wanted to be a writer. She said she loved thunderstorms. I said I was terrified of wasting my life. One evening, as we sat on a crate behind the market stalls, she looked at me with a strange kind of softness. You ever think about leaving this place? She asked. I nodded. Every day. Where would you go? I don't know. Someplace quiet. Open a little shop. Sell something real. She was quiet for a moment. Then, I don't want mansions or champagne. I want peace. I want to help people who never had a chance. And just like that, I fell in love. Not with her beauty, not with her last name, but with her heart. That wild, stubborn, generous heart. I didn't plan to say it that night, but the words were burning in my chest. Maya! I whispered. She turned to me. I think I love you. There was no hesitation in her smile. I know. I love you too. I should have known the happiness wouldn't last, because love in places like ours comes with a price. We were foolish to think love would be enough. Or maybe we weren't foolish, just hopeful in a world that had no patience for hope. The moment Maya's father found out about us, the sky over our little world split open. Mr. Carter didn't just disapprove, he declared war. It started with silence. He stopped speaking to Maya. Wouldn't look her in the eyes at the dinner table. Then came the warnings. You will not embarrass this family, he said. You are not some village girl chasing stories of love and hunger. Maya tried to reason with him. Dad, Leo is not just some boy. He's kind. He's strong. He takes care of his family. Doesn't that mean something to you? But Mr. Carter only sneered. He's a peasant. He wants what we have. And you are too blind to see it. When she refused to stop seeing me, he didn't scream. He made a phone call. By the next market day, no one would buy from me. My vegetables sat in baskets until they rotted. A woman whispered, Carter said the boy's dangerous. Said he's trying to ruin Maya. Another nodded, best not get involved. Within 2 weeks, we had no money for food. My father's cough got worse. Medicine. Out of reach. My mother stopped eating just so I could have bread. I worked day and night, cutting wood, carrying bricks, anything. But it wasn't enough. Maya came to me in tears. I'll talk to him again, she said. He has to see what he's doing to you. I shook my head, exhausted and bitter. He'll never accept me. I don't belong in your world. You belong in my world, Leo, she said firmly. I don't care about money or names. That night, I watched her walk back to her mansion, her shadow stretching across the empty road like a thread I didn't dare pull. Days turned into weeks. Then one morning, a man I'd never seen before arrived in the village. Tall, well-dressed. A smile too white to be honest. That evening, Maya didn't come to the market. The next day, I found out why. Her father had arranged for her to marry the man. Rich. From another town. Perfect on paper. Dead in the eyes. Maya refused. So he locked her in her room. No phone. No visits. Just walls. And silence. I tried to write her a letter. It came back unopened. I tried to ask the housekeeper. She slammed the door in my face. And in the dark corners of my mind, doubt crept in. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was just a poor boy playing pretend in a story that didn't belong to me. One night, the rain came heavy. Thunder cracked like anger in the sky. I was trying to sleep on the floor near my father's bed when I heard banging on the door. I opened it and there she was. Maya! Soaked through. Shivering. Eyes red from crying. Leo, she said breathlessly. I can't do this anymore. I can't breathe in that house. Let's run away. I stared at her, my heart torn. Maya, I can't even feed my family. I can't protect you. What kind of life is that? She stepped forward, took my face in her hands. We face it together. I'd rather struggle in truth than live in a lie. And that's when I knew. She wasn't a girl running from a wedding. She was a woman choosing her freedom. I packed what little we had. Some bread. A change of clothes. And before the sun rose, we were gone. No money. No plan. Only each other. The first town we reached was 20 kilometers away. We walked through the night. My feet blistered. Maya's dress clung to her legs from the rain. But neither of us complained. We were free. Terrified, exhausted, but free. No one was waiting for us. No warm bed. No helping hands. Just unfamiliar streets and people who didn't look us in the eye. We knocked on doors. Asked for work. Some told us to get lost. Others just stared. Eventually, an old man named Theo let us sleep in his barn. He didn't ask questions, just handed us 2 blankets and said, "Keep quiet. My wife doesn't like surprises." I'll never forget that night. Maya and I lay side by side in the hay. No pillows, no privacy, but more peace than I'd ever known. I whispered, "Still sure about this?" She smiled in the dark. "You're here. That's enough." The next morning, I found work loading crates at the docks. 12 hours a day for barely enough to buy bread. Maya found a job cleaning rooms in a nearby motel. She came home each night with sore feet and chemical burns on her hands. But she never complained. Not once. Some nights we didn't eat. Some days we didn't speak, too tired even to dream. But we stayed together. And that was everything. One evening, after 2 months of this, Maya collapsed while sweeping. The motel owner said if it happened again, she'd be fired. I stood there, shaking with anger. At the world. At myself. I wasn't enough. She had traded everything. Her home, her comfort, her father, for me. And I couldn't even give her rest. That night, I looked at her as she slept on the floor of our rented room, her arms wrapped around herself like armor. And I made a promise. To her. To myself. This will not be our forever. I started saving every coin. Didn't eat lunch. Took night shifts at a bakery after dock work. Barely slept. But I saved. 6 months later, we had just enough to rent a tiny stall at the edge of the market street. It was no bigger than a closet. But it was ours. We sold sandwiches in the morning, bread in the afternoon. Maya baked at night, even when her hands were raw. We laughed again. Slowly. Cautiously. One day, a woman came and asked for 5 loaves for a wedding. 2 days later, she brought 3 more customers. Word spread. The boy with tired eyes and the blonde girl with flour on her cheeks, they made the best bread in town. We called the stall the Wild Crumb. Not because it made sense, but because it was ours. Unpolished, honest, free, and little by little, we built a life. It wasn't grand. We didn't have gold or fine clothes. But we had dignity and love that had been tested in fire. One evening, as we were closing up, I turned to Maya and said, "Remember when I said I wanted a shop someday?" She nodded, brushing flour from her face. "This isn't what I imagined," I said. "But I think it's better." She kissed me on the cheek. "You made a life out of nothing, Leo, and you gave it to both of us." But just as we found peace, the past came knocking. It was late afternoon. The air smelled of warm bread and cinnamon. Maya was wiping the counter. I was restocking jars. Everything felt quiet, content, like a soft exhale after a long breath held too long. Then the bell above the door rang. I turned and froze. He looked older than I remembered. Still tall. Still proud. But the sharpness in his eyes had dulled. "Mr. Carter." Maya stiffened beside me. For a second, she didn't move. Then, her voice low, "Dad." He nodded, cleared his throat, looked at me, then around the shop. "I heard you 2 were doing well." No hello. No apology. Just that. I didn't say a word. It wasn't my place. Maya stepped forward. "We are. We worked for it. He nodded again, slower this time. I was wrong, he said finally. I thought if you chose love over comfort, you'd drown. But it seems you've learned to swim. She didn't smile. Not swim, Dad. We fought the current until our arms went numb. Silence. Then, something rare flickered across his face. Regret. I was a fool, he admitted. I was afraid of losing control. And I lost my daughter instead. Maya blinked quickly, but her voice stayed firm. You didn't lose me. You pushed me away. He lowered his head. I'm sorry. For everything. A pause. If you'll have me, I'd like to be part of your life again. She looked at me, not for permission, but for strength, and I gave a small nod. She turned back to him. You're welcome to visit, but we don't need rescuing. Not anymore. He smiled softly. I see that. He left a small basket on the counter, apples from her childhood orchard, and walked out. We stood there for a long moment, just breathing. Then Maya said, I never thought he'd say sorry. People change, I said, if they want to. That night, we sat on the roof of our apartment above the shop, feet dangling, hands clasped. No riches, no headlines, just two people who had walked through fire together and survived. Maya rested her head on my shoulder. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't bought those apples that day? I smiled. All the time. We sat in silence, not the awkward kind, the full kind, the kind that says we made it. Life didn't suddenly become easy. There were still bills, rainy days, and moments of fear. But there was also laughter, warm mornings, and peace, because we had chosen each other, not once but again and again, when it was hardest, when it mattered most, and that was more than enough.